going on, people? Ben here from Bateman Talks Tottenham, back with another video with my Aunt Jill today.
Hiya.
Where today we'll be talking about the latest develops in the ongoing Harry Kane saga that feels like a never-ending deal, to be honest, isn't it?
It really does.
That pretty much sums it up, if you ask me. Right, well, Matt Law from the Daily Telegraph has said that Levy is close to agreeing a deal with PSG for Harry Kane. However, Harry Kane does not want to go to PSG. I mean, are you surprised by that?
I'm surprised that they would go so far down a deal with someone who he clearly does not want to go to. It's a complete waste of our time. Pre-season's rapidly diminishing. We need to get it sorted one way or the other. So I would go with Bayern Munich. If they're willing to sell him, then keep going with Bayern Munich, because there's no point wasting time with other teams, PSG included, if he's not going to go.
Obviously, they're a bit more of a financial juggernaut when it comes to it, which I think is why the Spurs have entertained the offer. But obviously, PSG are supposedly willing to outbid other clubs for Kane, but it would take a massive U-turn on Harry Kane's part for a move to happen.
Yeah, you can't make him go somewhere he doesn't want to go, so it's kind of, just wasting our time.
Yeah, it's like with Sanchez. They can't force him to go to Moscow when he doesn't want to.
No.
But obviously, supposedly now that Spurs are back in London after their pre-season tour, Bayern Munich are sending out executives to meet with Daniel Levy in London this week. I mean, do you think that could really move the deal along? It'd be nice to just get it sorted and out of the way, really, wouldn't it? To remove all this uncertainty that's been going on for so long.
Yeah, we need to know. We need to be able to either plan for him staying, not so much needed. We need to plan for him going, because we've got obviously Richarlison waiting in the wings, but he alone is not going to be sufficient at all. And I think Daniel Levy just needs to make his mind up whether he's going to let him go or not. And Harry, would be helpful if Harry came out and said what he's thinking. I did wonder at the half-time yesterday when he'd scored the penalty. I don't know, did that look like a player who just thought he might have scored his last goal for his club?
Yeah.
To be honest, I did wonder that. Not so much the lack of celebration, but possibly because it was, only a friendly. We just got back to 1-1 against a team that, aren't brilliant. But it was just something in his demeanour. Maybe I'm reading too much into it, but we need some clarity.
Yeah, I think there was also a clip after the game, when they lifted the trophy, that I don't know if people are reading too much into it, that Harry Kane was the first one to walk off the pitch.
Sure.
That people said. I mean, you could see that argument. You might think that, but it's difficult. You can never really read too much into him, but you can understand the speculation.
I expect he was probably wanting to avoid Harry Kane wins a trophy at Spurs.
Probably.
Kind of irony.
He doesn't need to go.
No, exactly. Well, he can stay now. Yeah, we've won.
Yeah.
Actually, we won 2, the Audi Cup as well.
True.
So
true. And the Walter Toll Cup last season. Can't forget that.
See, they're filling up this trophy cabinet as we speak. What's the problem?
No, exactly. Obviously, there are reportedly a potential buyback clause in the deal, which we reported last week. I mean, my issue with that is it depends how much it is from how much he will have aged by the time it would be valid.
Yeah.
Because if it's like 30-40 million in 3 years' time, then I think that might be all right. But if it was like a 70-60 million pound offer for 4 years' time, then I think that's not viable for us to make. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many variables in that. How much it's going to be. He'd have to want to come back. He goes to Bayern Munich. He gets a taste for winning trophies. Yeah. Will retiring at his home, his boyhood club, be sufficient by then, or will he be having will the sentiment of that outride going somewhere else and being more guaranteed? But let's face it. At the moment, the only team he can go to in the Premier League and be guaranteed trophies is Man City. And will they want him by then, even if Haaland has by then gone on to Real Madrid? Will they want him at that age? Who can tell?
Yeah, and you never know potential injuries that could happen. Obviously, he's not had many in the past couple of years, but he did struggle with ankle injuries in the start of his career at Spurs in particular. Yeah. Right, well, moving on, we'll just have a quick sort of debrief from the game again yesterday to get your thoughts on it. Overall thoughts, what did you think?
Well, again, similar to the first game we played pre-season.
Brilliant.
Fantastic. So many shots, so many corners, so much free-flowing possession-based football. Yeah. Wonderful. The defence bothers me massively still. Yeah. I mean, we're not... Is this... We could rerun the show you did from that game and say the same thing. It's a very broken record, and the longer it goes on, it's even worse than the situation with Kane, I would say, because we've got other players in the team, whether we like it of him going or not. We've got other players who can score goals, who will score goals. We've coped when he's been injured in the past, but our central defence, well, all the defence is not brilliant.
Well, it says it
shaky.
all. Yeah, it says it all that I think only us conceded more than all the other teams in the league, other than the bottom 5. We conceded more than most other teams, even in the bottom half of the table.
Yeah, absolutely. And the way it stands at the moment, it feels a bit like we'd be going back to the days of the Aussie RD list management, which was fantastic to watch as well, but nail-biting in that they'll score 4, let's hope we score 5. And you could argue with the attacking Ange ball that we're going to be having, that might happen, but we have to shore up the defence, and the longer this goes on...
Well, if the defence isn't improved and Harry Kane goes, we'll finish in the bottom half, I think. Yeah,
we'll be slaughtered by teams who have better teams than the two that we've just played.
No, definitely. And also, one thing I wanted to get your opinion on the game yesterday and the game the other day about Giovanni Lo Celso, with supposedly Postecoglou in his press conference sounded like he really wants him to stay.
Yeah,
and there are reports that people at Spurs think he seems to be a lot happier and much more of a better mood than in the previous time under different managers. I mean, do you think Lo Celso could be one to stick around?
I don't see why not. Given his performances, given Ange's philosophy, given that would suit him far better than Conte or Mourinho's football ever did, then why not? He's shown... I mean, you can't read too much into it because the opposition hasn't been high quality. It would have been great to have watched them against Leicester, not because Leicester are brilliant, but because we've got a comparison of how Leicester have been, what we would expect from Leicester. If the Roma game hadn't been cancelled, that would have been a much sterner test. We'd have been in a lot better position to know more about the pitch from goalkeeper up to the attackers, and sadly that hasn't happened. But in terms of Gio, then if he's happy to stay, then I think he would definitely be a good player to have around.
No, yeah, definitely. I think with that, like you say, Roma and Leicester, this pre-season has been a little bit of a shambles in terms of an organisation point of view. But there's not much they could do about the rain. But it's more...
Well, they could have not gone to Thailand in the monsoon season.
There is that.
Other than that, there's not a lot you can do about the rain, no.
Yeah, but hopefully once the season gets going, we'll be doing well, and it'll be just a case of seeing what this season brings for us. But finally, there have been, as usual, reports on centre-backs today, with supposedly from The Athletic saying that the Mickey van der Ven deal, as we all know, is not progressing, and that there are fears it could collapse. However, Spurs could attempt to get the deal going again. I mean, if you ask me, it's just a simple case of pay the money. Would you not say?
100%. Pay the money, pay what he's worth. You know, we paid, what did we pay for Sanchez? 42 million quid. X number of years ago. However much for Van der Ven is going to be roughly around the same. Just pay the money, and then we can put him in the team. He can get a couple of games pre-season, and we can start to shore up our defence.
It's the case of it's better late than never, but to get them in, but you want them in earlier because it means the start of the season is going to be affected. Yeah,
and unfortunately, all the positivity that we had, all the goodwill that the fans were feeling with all the early signings that we made, you know, Solomon, Maddison, Vicario, fantastic. If they'd managed to then get in the defenders before we went off on the tour, we'd be riding high on a feeling of happiness right now. And at the moment, it's just slight angst of what is this season going to bring, because we've got all the attacking talent in the world. Whether Harry stays or goes, we've got a good philosophy for progressive attacking football. But if we've not got rocks in the centre of defence to be that immovable sort of barrier, then we are gonna
concede a lot of goals
against particularly the better teams.
Yeah, and also Fabrizio Romano on a podcast said once again the same thing he said for about 4 weeks, that Tapsoba remains Tottenham's number one target, but there were some Bayern Leverkusen executives the other day saying that it would take a massive offer to get Tapsoba away, considering he's still got quite a long contract on him.
Yeah.
I mean, I for one think that's quite unlikely to happen now, would you say?
Yeah, and it's how much you believe of what's in the media, because before they went on the tour, it was all looking very promising. We're going to get one of them or the other at an outside bet, possibly both. And now to hear Leverkusen, it's as if, well, he's never really been proactively for sale. We want to keep him. What's all the fuss about? And you think, well, what was the source of all that flourishing press frenzy beforehand.
Yeah, we just got to hope that them being back in the country now, despite technology nowadays, you've got to hope that it might encourage them to progress further forward with some of the deals. Right, well, thank you all for watching me and my aunt on Bateman Talks Tottenham, and as always, come on you Spurs!